So now for the third step of having the difficult conversation. We notice that we're being triggered by what's going on in front of us. We're managing that trigger by breathing, getting the oxygen in, refusing the bait. In the moment, my strategy is to use a practical tone of voice just to finish the critical task and ensure it gets to completion. Now comes the most critical part, and the part that many of us tend to lean away from the most. This is now the follow-up discussion. We call this the process discussion, where I approach and initiate with the other person. I don't wait for them to do it with me. That takes some courage. I initiate the process discussion to review with them about how we communicated there so we can set it up for success in the future. This requires 2 critical skills and 4 steps. The 2 critical skills are, number 1, the skill of acknowledging. Short paraphrases about what I heard is important to the other person, particularly when I don't agree with them. And acknowledgement is not agreeing, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. The second skill is staying curious with the person, using open-ended questions like who, what, when, where, why, and how, and adopting a tone of curiosity. And the 4 steps we're going to get to as we move into the discussion, and I'll give an example. So let's say that after the nurse X had barked at midwife X, they got through the procedure. About 6 hours later, maybe 24 hours later, but certainly within a week, midwife X is now going to approach nurse X to have the difficult conversation. Choose a safe time and place. At the busy nursing station may not be the best time or place right now. The midwife may need to approach nurse X and say, do you have just a few moments where I may speak with you just about an interaction we had the other day? And nurse X may still respond chippy. What's this about? Well, that's exactly what I'd like to speak with you about. Could we maybe speak a little bit in private? So you may need to guide them a little bit over to the side. Start with a tone of curiosity. I was reflecting on our procedure on Monday, and I just wanted to chat with you about that. It didn't seem to go pretty bumpy, and I'm curious about how did it go from your perspective? If you want to be understood, you have to first make a gesture and effort to understand the other person. Give them an opportunity to say what they want to say first. And yes, you may be opening yourself up to hear some things you don't want to hear. We are going to cover that. You're going to be managing your anxiety by breathing and refusing the bait. As the nurse describes her perspective, try not to react. Just acknowledge, oh, okay, so from your perspective, I was making errors there. There were things that were problematic. I'd like to talk more about that. Keep using that curious tone of, oh, okay, so then what happened? All right, so what was that like? Moving into the 4 steps now, this is where the midwife is going to assert herself. She's going to put her perspective on the table. And I'm proposing that you try the DEAR strategy, D-E-A-R. D stands for describe specifically what you saw and what you heard. Don't generalize and don't exaggerate. It sounds like this. So at the procedure on Monday around 2 o'clock, as we were involved together, you turned to me at one point and you said that I was stupid and incompetent. Don't say, you always say this, you're never polite, you're always being disrespectful, I'm not the only one, you're just going to make them defensive. Stay with what you see and what you hear. E of the DEAR model stands for explain the impacts of that. If you have a good working relationship, feel free to talk about your feelings. Feelings are good statements of impact. However, if you feel the person's a bully and they were bullying you, don't talk about your feelings. Never talk about your feelings with a bully. They don't care about your feelings. That's why they're bullying you. It's not going to motivate them. Bullies respect pushback, and bullies respond when you are able to talk about how this is getting in their way. So it might sound like, the D part with the E part, Monday when we were working together, you turned to me and you said something like, you're stupid and incompetent. It makes it really hard for me to problem solve with you when you use language like that. A of the DEAR model stands for ask to hear their point of view and hear them out. At this point, they generally want to jump in, add something like, so what's your take on that? What happened there? And they might lie through the teeth. They might say, I didn't say stupid and incompetent. Again, you're going to be practicing not reacting, refusing the bait, forcing oxygen in as you shift to curiosity. Oh, well, what do you remember about that conversation? I said that what you were doing was stupid. I didn't call you stupid. You'll hear some variation that's a little different than your point of view. Allow that to kind of save face. I would suggest you don't go into battle on that mountain. Instead, I would move on to R. R stands for make a request for the future. It may be something very practical. Rather than arguing about did she call me stupid or call my behavior stupid, I might say something like, it would just be really helpful in the future if we didn't use words like stupid or incompetent when we're problem solving. And see what they say. You don't often get a handshake where they say, oh, okay, from now on, colleague, we're going to work respectfully together, but you notice in the future their language changes.